Dorothy Mitchell was 72 years old and lived alone in a small white house on the quiet edge of a Kansas town. The house wasn't anything fancy, just a simple place with peeling paint, a squeaky old porch swing, and a little garden where daisies grew every spring. People in the neighborhood would wave at her when she walked to the mailbox, and she always waved back with a warm smile. She was the kind of woman everyone liked, the kind of person who never bothered anyone, never asked for anything, and found joy in little things like baking pies or watching birds land near her window. But if there was one thing in Dorothy's life she cherished more than anything, it was her son, Michael. He had left Kansas years ago, moving to New York City for a better job, a better life, and bigger dreams. Dorothy was proud of him. She was proud of every accomplishment he made. She kept newspaper clippings, awards, and old photos in a wooden box under her bed. But the truth, which she never told anyone, was that she missed him every day. She missed his laughter in the house, the way he helped her water the garden, the way he used to sit on the porch steps and talk about his future. She missed being someone's mother in a house that had become far too quiet. Every evening, Dorothy turned on her porch light. She did it out of habit, maybe out of hope too. She told herself, if my boy ever comes home late at night, he'll know I'm waiting. It became her ritual, as important as locking the doors and feeding her cat. Even if Michael hadn't visited in years, the porch light never failed to glow. In New York, Michael's life was fast and chaotic. Meetings, deadlines, business trips. There was always something demanding his time. He loved his mother, but in the whirlwind of his life, phone calls became shorter and visits became rare. Sometimes he'd go months without talking to her, convincing himself that he would call her next week, then next week, then next. He didn't do it out of neglect. He just didn't realize how quickly time was slipping away. Winter came early that year in Kansas. A bitter wind swept through the town, coating houses in layers of frost. Dorothy felt the cold in her bones more than she used to. She moved slower, breathed heavier, and sometimes sat on the porch swing even when she shouldn't. But she didn't tell anyone. She never wanted to be a burden. She simply wrapped her old shawl tighter and kept going, just as she always had. On her 73rd birthday, Dorothy baked herself a small vanilla cake. She set 2 slices on the table, one for her, one for her son, just like she did when he was a child. She waited all evening for a phone call from him. The hours passed slowly. The cake grew cold, and when the clock struck midnight, she sighed and whispered, "Maybe he got busy. That's all right. Maybe next year." Then she blew out the little candle and wiped a tear before it could fall. Weeks later, on a cold January morning, Dorothy walked to the mailbox like she always did. She took slow steps, gripping the railing for support. She tucked letters under her arm, turned around, and suddenly felt a sharp pain in her chest. The world blurred. The snow became too bright. Her breath became too thin. She collapsed on the ground, the letters scattering around her. A neighbor rushed over and called an ambulance. Dorothy was taken to the hospital, barely conscious. The doctors tried everything they could, but her frail heart was failing. One nurse found Michael's number written on a piece of paper in Dorothy's purse. She called him immediately. When Michael heard the words, "Your mother is in critical condition. You should come soon," he felt his entire world crumble. The reality he had avoided for years hit him with full force. He booked the earliest flight to Kansas, hardly able to breathe from guilt. All the nights he didn't call, all the birthdays he missed, all the times he said, "I'll visit soon," came crashing down on him. When he reached Kansas, snow covered the roads. He drove straight to the house before going to the hospital, driven by something he didn't fully understand. And when he arrived, the first thing he saw was the porch light, still glowing softly in the winter darkness. He stood there for a long time, staring at it through tears, even when he stayed away, even when he forgot to call, even when he let life pull him in every direction. His mother had kept the light on. She had never stopped waiting. At the hospital, he found Dorothy lying in bed, pale and fragile. But when she saw him, her eyes lit up like a warm summer morning. "Michael," she whispered, her voice thin. "You came, sweetheart." He fell to his knees beside her and held her hands, trembling. "Mom, I'm so sorry," he cried. "I should have been here more. I should have called. I should have—" But Dorothy pressed her hand gently against his cheek. "Hush, baby," she whispered. "A mother doesn't count her child's mistakes. You're here now. That's all I ever wanted." They talked for hours, longer than they had in years. She told him about her garden, her neighbors, the pies she baked, the sunset she watched every evening from the porch swing. He told her about New York, about work, about the things he wished he had shared sooner. It felt like time had slowed down just for them. Late that night, as Michael sat beside her bed, he found a folded letter under her pillow. It had his name on it in her handwriting. With shaking hands, he opened it and read, "My dear boy, if ever you feel lost, look for the porch light. It means your mother is still guiding you home." He pressed the letter to his heart and cried silently. The next morning, just before sunrise, Dorothy took her last breath. There were no dramatic words, no struggle, just a peaceful, gentle passing. She left the world with a faint smile, knowing her son was finally home beside her. After the funeral, Michael stayed in Kansas for several days. He walked through the house, touching old memories, holding things she left behind. Neighbors told him how she always spoke proudly of him, how she shared cookies with kids, how she lit the porch light every evening without fail. Every story broke him a little and healed him a little at the same time. On his last day in Kansas, before returning to New York, Michael stood on the porch in the cold evening air. He looked at the porch light, the same one she turned on every night. He reached up, unscrewed the old bulb, and replaced it with a new, brighter one. He switched it on and whispered, "This one's for you, Mom. Your light will never go out." And when he returned to New York, he wasn't the same man. He called his relatives more often. He visited old friends he had forgotten. He helped neighbors. He slowed down enough to notice people around him. Because he had learned, through a mother's quiet love, that life is fragile, relationships matter, and leaving people waiting is the real regret. Every night, when he saw the glow of city lights from his apartment window, he remembered the little white house in Kansas and the porch light that waited for him through all the lost years. And in his heart, that light still burned, steady, warm, and eternal.